This is the Kitchen Sink WP Podcast, episode 298.
I program my own computer.
We have a server crash, 404 error, page not found, links aren't working, system is crashing, system is crashing, system is crashing.
Your old HTML website, barely alive. We have the technology. We have WordPress. A new website, better than it was before. Better, stronger, faster. We have the technology.
Why, hello everybody. This is Adam Silver, the host of the Kitchen Sink WP Podcast. Thanks for being here. Let's get started. All right, upcoming events. This next week we have 3 WordCamps, down from 8, which is down from like 9. So it's kind of, things are slowing down a little bit as the year comes to a close. The 3 WordCamps coming up are WordCamp Boise, November 15th and 16th, up in Idaho. WordCamp Islamabad, November 16th, and WordCamp Sydney, Australia, November 16th and 17th. And I'm not going to any of those. I might be done going to camps this year. We'll see. There's always a chance. One more, maybe. So, all right. If you're in the area, by all means, you should go. All right. Moving on, segment 1, in the news, a quick little WordCamp US wrap-up, some stats I wanted to share. Matt, of course, did the State of the Word, and there'll be a link in the show notes for that. But some stats I wanted to share were that there were 141 WordCamps across the country so in the last year since the last State of the Word. 34 of those were in new cities, the first time they had a camp, which is awesome. There were 17 kids camps, which is also cool. First time I think we had one at WordCamp US, and I know that one of those 17 kid camps was at WordCamp Raleigh, which was very cool. And I want to do a shout out to Sandy Edwards for coming up from Florida to help manage that and run that. And she also did it at US as well, so pretty cool. And there were 5,000 meetup events, WordPress meetup events across the world apparently. Pretty darn cool. So, and we're going to talk more about this in a minute here, actually, so keep that in mind. Also at WordCamp US was the premiere of the Open community film. Open.film is where you can see it. It is a documentary about the community and the open source community of WordPress. It's 13 minutes, relatively short. I'll link to it in the show notes. Pretty cool. I was interviewed for it, and there's a lot more footage out there that wasn't put into this version, so it's being submitted as a short documentary format in some festivals. I believe it's also actually open sourced, so people can use the footage, recut it, re-edit it, etc. It's over at Open.film, so check that out. Oh, and I did make the cut on this short version of it. It's kind of nice and flattering to be in there. So thanks to the team over at WordFence, Mark and why can't I think of Kathy, his aunt. So thank you for including me in that project. So. Also in the news, WordPress 5.3 RC4, release candidate 4, is out. It's been out for about a week. The official release for WordPress 5.3 is due tomorrow. As of this recording, the day that this comes out is the 11th of November, so November 12th is the due date. We'll see if that holds true. It should hold true. I don't see why it wouldn't. And lastly, WordPress survey is back out in the wild this year. It's over at the .org survey. I'll put a link in the show notes. It takes about 10 minutes, but that way we get, as a community and WordPress Central, get a good sense of where things are at in the community as well. So please take part of that survey. All right, moving on. In the meat and potatoes, segment 2, getting involved in the community. As we wrapped up all things WordCamp US, I want to keep that feeling of community going this week. So I want to remind you of ways to get involved. If you aren't already involved, or if you want to change the way you're involved, or continue, or just expand, here are a few ways. And these aren't revolutionary by any stretch. Maybe one of them might be. So first and foremost, as I always mention, meetups, local meetups. So, just to define it in case you're a brand new listener, and it could happen. I've met a lot of people recently, so maybe you're a brand new listener to the show. A meetup is headed by a air quotes here, lead organizer in the area who puts together, ideally a regularly scheduled gathering once a month, twice a month. It just depends on the city, location, venue. Many groups do meet just once a month, but the schedules can vary. I always suggest that if someone's starting a meetup, you pick a day and time that's consistent. For example, the third Thursday of the month, if that works for you. If you ask 10 people, you're going to get 10 different answers of what works for them. It has to kind of be stated and set by the person who's, quote, leading. You're not going to please everybody on the availability and the time frame. You have to get past that. You really do. As much as of it as a community-driven thing, too many cooks in the kitchen may not work out. So you need, quote, one lead, but you can have more than one lead, and it does add some complexity, but not always. For example, in Southern California, in the Orange County area, there are 3 meetups within that umbrella. There's general meetup, design, and development. They all have different leads, but all under that same umbrella, and it works really well. So one person leads each meetup. So they do one per week, and they have the 4th week off of the month. So like week 1 of the month is the general. It's on Monday nights, I think, or it was. Week 2, whatever day it is, it's design. Week 3, it's development. And then week 4, there's nothing for the month. So it can really work. Now, the only requirement for meetups is that they are WordPress related, obviously, and they're open to the public, and that the organizers and presenters make no money. Okay. If funds are needed for a venue, and you're under the umbrella of WordPress Central and Foundation, you can reach out and they will help fund the finding of a venue for you. Maybe a sponsorship or something, but we can't, the organizers and the speakers, anyone who presents doesn't make any money. So that's the local meetup way to get involved. You should definitely reach out to your local meetup. If you don't have one, maybe you should be the lead. So there's that. Also, of course, would be local WordCamps. I talk about this every week, not just the big ones, US, Europe, Asia coming. So local WordCamps. So the difference between a meetup and a WordCamp is usually the duration. So obviously, meetups are an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, usually tops would be the longest one. Well, unless you do one on the weekend, you have like an open, something a little longer, which I used to do in Southern California as well. But meetup is shorter, one evening, and a WordCamp is typically, 1 to 3 days. So, and not to exceed $50 in total fees, etc. So tickets are sold to help cover the cost. Again, organizers and speakers don't make any money from the event, and everyone at the event who's working it, quote unquote working, is a volunteer. And I mean everyone, like across the board. Lead organizers, people in charge of sponsorship wrangling, volunteer wrangler, photographers, videographers, everyone is a volunteer at a local WordCamp. That's not to say that if enough funds or sponsors are brought in, that certain roles can't be paid. Like, other camps, they will pay sometimes for someone to actually run the videography, run the video cameras, and then edit it. That way it gets done that much faster. Because again, as a volunteer, we only have so much time and so much energy to get things done. So it can be done, but it's not the consensus across the board is that anyone involved in the camp itself is a volunteer. Okay. There are a variety of tracks and topics, different styles of talks and speeches. 45-minute talk is usually average. There's lightning talks, there's panels, there's maybe a hands-on workshops as well, like a beginner track or development tracks. There's kids camps, as I mentioned earlier. So y'all know me if you listen to the show. I love me a good WordCamp. Literally, they are just awesome. It's a great place to get a fire hose of information in a very short amount of time. They can be overwhelming for brand new people, but it's a great place to get to kind of get that re-energize and connect and make friendships, lifelong friendships at this point. 10 years now. So there's that. Okay. Let's say you don't want to travel. Can't travel, not a problem, but you still want to get involved. So if that's the case, you want to head over to make.wordpress.com. There are plenty of options here to contribute. There are 18 different teams that you can jump into and give back. For example, there's core, there's design, accessibility, mobile, support, themes, documentation, community, which I'm a part of, training, I'm also in that one. There's testing, TV. I'll stop right there. Another one, CLI, real quick. So, and you can move around. You don't have to, you can pick one. You want to help contribute to it. And if you get bored or tired, you want something different, you can excuse yourself and you can go to a different group and see what fits for you. There are often weekly or monthly online meetings to discuss the current needs and projects and issues, to figure out what's the next things that we need to take care of as a team, etc. So that's over at make.wordpress.com. So that's one way to definitely get involved. And lastly, there is, of course, the 5 for the future. This was launched back in 2014. It was launched by WordPress co-founder Matt Mullenweg as a way to maintain the ratio of contribution to users. So, there's actually a website now as well on the on the WordPress.org under news, under the blog is about 5 for the future. Companies will donate 5% of their resources to WordPress development. So, my 5 for the future right now, I volunteer and do this podcast for one. That's part of my time. I help with the Raleigh Meetup. I help with the Raleigh WordCamp as well, and the US. So I'm feeling pretty good about my 5 for the future. So now, why do we do all this? Well, truth be told, without the worldwide support of volunteers, we wouldn't have the community that we have right now. And the project, because it's a WordPress project, it would stall out. It just wouldn't go anywhere after a while. So it's just that cycle. And people come and go. Don't think you have to sign up and be involved forever. As a volunteer, life comes first. Family first is my philosophy. And if you need to take a step away for whatever reason, you need a break, that's okay. There's no expectation that you're going to be, leading something forever. So at the very least, just realize, take care of yourself first and foremost. So there you have it. There are a handful of ways to stay involved, be involved, get involved in the WordPress project, and I hope you do just that. And great to meet you if I haven't met you already in person in the near future at an event or online or in real life, etc. So, all right, moving on. Segment 3, tip and tool of the week. This week's tip is a plugin called Better Search Replace. I needed to replace one word across an entire website with another word, and it was being used a lot. And so I didn't want to have to go in and find it each page and each post and everything where it was. So Delicious Brains makes this plugin. There's 800,000 installs. Works really well. You can actually run it through as a dry test first to see where it's going to affect, and then go ahead and do it. And there's some settings in there allowing you to lessen the load on the server if your hosting company isn't as ideal as you'd like it to be. So Better Search Replace, link in the show notes. It's free. I'm using the free version. I think there might be a paid version. I don't know. Anyway, check it out if you're looking to do some search replacing functionality of a website. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up here. If you have any questions, go ahead and send it in via email. I'm adam@KitchensinkWP.com, or use that SpeakPipe functionality of the website. If you want to support the show, become a Patreon. If you want to sponsor the show, you can do that too. There's a form on the website. Thanks so much for listening. Now go out and do some awesome things with WordPress. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.